There was a time when owning a BlackBerry meant you'd made it. That small device with its tiny keyboard wasn't just a phone. It was a status symbol, a badge of power and productivity. Politicians, CEOs, and celebrities all carried one. Barack Obama famously refused to give up his BlackBerry even after becoming president. For years, it seemed unstoppable. But then, almost overnight, it vanished. What happened to the company that once ruled the smartphone world? How did a brand that created mobile addiction end up disappearing completely? Let's find out. And before we begin, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with others who love discovering how powerful companies rise and fall. It really helps us bring you more stories like this one. Now, let's dive in. Our story starts in Waterloo, Ontario, Canada. The year is 1984, and two engineering students, Mike Lazaridis and Douglas Freegan, are tinkering with a dream. They want to build a company that connects people through wireless data. They call it Research in Motion, or RIM. At the time, mobile phones were huge, slow, and mostly for voice calls. The internet was still in its early stages. But these two believed that one day, information would flow wirelessly through the air, and people would need portable devices to access it. It was a bold idea. For years, RIM focused on developing technologies that could send data over wireless networks. They built modems, pagers, and communication systems for companies. It wasn't glamorous work, but it taught them something crucial: how to send secure data efficiently. And that would soon change everything. By the late 1990s, email was becoming the heartbeat of the business world. People wanted to check messages on the go. In 1999, RIM launched something revolutionary: the BlackBerry 850. It looked like a pager, but allowed users to send and receive emails wirelessly. For business professionals, it was like magic. They could suddenly respond instantly from anywhere. No more waiting to get back to the office. Productivity exploded. The word "crackberry" was born, because people couldn't put their devices down. It wasn't just technology, it was an addiction. And BlackBerry's secret weapon was its security. Messages were encrypted end-to-end through RIM's own servers. Governments, banks, and corporations trusted it completely. For executives and politicians, that tiny keyboard became a symbol of control and power. By the early 2000s, RIM was on top of the world. The BlackBerry had transformed from a business tool into a cultural icon. Everyone wanted one. Celebrities flaunted them, and companies issued them by the thousands. In 2007, RIM became one of the most valuable tech firms on the planet. It seemed unstoppable. But then, in 2007, something small but world-changing happened. Steve Jobs walked onto a stage and introduced the iPhone. It looked like the future: a big touchscreen, no physical keyboard, internet browsing, music, and apps. Many at RIM dismissed it at first. They thought no business user would give up the speed and accuracy of a real keyboard for a touchscreen. They believed security and email were what mattered most. They thought Apple's phone was just a toy. But the world was changing. The iPhone didn't just change how phones looked. It changed what people expected from them. Suddenly, phones weren't just for email. They were for entertainment, apps, photos, and social media. It wasn't about productivity anymore. It was about experience. And that was something BlackBerry wasn't built for. Still, RIM kept growing for a while. In 2009, the company hit its peak with over 80 million users. Its devices like the Bold and Curve were everywhere. But under the surface, cracks were forming. The software looked old. The browser was slow. And the App Store, well, it barely existed. While Apple's App Store and Google's Android market exploded with thousands of new apps, BlackBerry's world felt frozen in time. RIM tried to respond, but it was stuck in its own success. Its loyal users wanted keyboards, not touchscreens. Its biggest customers, governments and corporations, valued security, not selfies. The company hesitated to reinvent itself because it feared alienating its core audience. But in the fast-moving world of technology, hesitation is deadly. When RIM finally launched its first touchscreen phone, the BlackBerry Storm, it was a disaster. The screen was slow, unresponsive, and buggy. Reviewers called it clunky and frustrating. Apple's iPhone, on the other hand, was sleek, smooth, and fun to use. Consumers noticed the difference immediately. As iPhones and Android phones improved year after year, BlackBerry lagged behind. The company's email system, once its biggest advantage, became a limitation. It relied on its own servers, while Apple and Google built seamless, cloud-based ecosystems that worked across all devices. Meanwhile, developers didn't want to make apps for a shrinking audience. That meant fewer apps, fewer users, and an accelerating downward spiral. By 2011, the writing was on the wall. BlackBerry's market share plummeted. From owning half the smartphone market, it dropped to single digits within a few years. The company's leaders, Mike Lazaridis and Jim Balsillie, struggled to agree on a strategy. Should they focus on consumers or return to their business roots? Should they make Android phones or stick with their own system? Internal debates slowed everything down while Apple and Samsung sprinted ahead. In 2013, BlackBerry made one last big bet: the BlackBerry 10 operating system. It was modern, powerful, and fast. But it was too late. Developers didn't care, carriers weren't excited, and customers had already moved on. Even loyal fans started switching. By 2016, BlackBerry finally stopped making its own phones. The brand that once defined mobile communication had fallen. The company shifted its focus to software, cybersecurity, and licensing, areas where its expertise still mattered. The phones, though, were gone. So what really caused BlackBerry's fall? It wasn't just one mistake. It was a chain of decisions, some cautious, some arrogant, some simply too slow. BlackBerry didn't understand how quickly technology was changing. It thought people would always value security and keyboards more than touchscreens and apps. It underestimated Apple's influence and ignored Android's rise. Most importantly, it failed to see that smartphones were no longer just tools. They were experiences. BlackBerry had built a fortress of email and encryption, but it couldn't build a world of creativity and connection. When technology shifted from work to life, from office to pocket, BlackBerry stayed in the boardroom while everyone else went to the party. Yet, despite disappearing from the smartphone market, the company didn't die. It evolved. Today, BlackBerry focuses on cybersecurity and automotive software, providing systems that protect millions of connected cars and devices. It's no longer a consumer brand, but it's still alive, quietly shaping the digital world in new ways. The story of BlackBerry is both inspiring and cautionary. It shows how innovation can create giants, and how complacency can destroy them. It reminds us that no company, no matter how dominant, is safe from change. Technology moves fast. The moment you stop reinventing yourself, the world moves on without you. BlackBerry's rise and fall isn't just about phones. It's about human nature, our love for convenience, design, and progress. It's about how we choose experience over habit, and how even the smartest companies can fail if they stop listening to what people truly want. And maybe that's the real reason BlackBerry disappeared. Not because it didn't have the technology, but because it didn't have the imagination to see what the future would look like. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like this video, share it with friends who remember the BlackBerry era, and comment below what you think was the company's biggest mistake. And don't forget to subscribe, because we'll keep exploring the fascinating stories behind the rise and fall of the world's most powerful brands.